Assalamu alaikum. Hello viewers. Hope you are all well and enjoying your life. I welcome you all to the channel of Learn with MW. Viewers, don't go anywhere. We are starting the part 6 of pronoun. But till now we have uploaded part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 and part 5 regarding pronoun, in which we have discussed pronoun from a very different angle and from a very different perspective. So viewers, if you missed that video, go through the channel and watch that video. Now in part 6 we will studying further types of pronoun, and that type is a relative pronoun. So relative pronoun is a very special type of pronoun. Now we will look at the native writer have written in their book that the relative word is basically taken from the Latin word. Relative is basically taken from the Latin word, and that word is relatus. This is basically the Latin word from which the relative English word is taken. Relative word is basically taken from the Latin word relatus, and relatus basically mean relation, or it also mean to refer. So viewers, the relative word is basically taken from the Latin word relatus, which basically mean relation, having a reference, or to refer. Now we will defining relative pronoun from this meaning. Look at what is relative pronoun. So the native writer have defined relative pronoun in a very grammatical way. So look at a relative pronoun is one which is used to refer to the noun or pronouns. A relative pronoun is a pronoun which is used to refer to the nouns or pronouns mentioned previously, whether they are people, whether they are things, whether they are animals, or whether they are ideas. Again, a relative pronoun is a one which is used to refer to the noun or pronoun mentioned previously in the sentence, whether they are people, whether they are things, whether they are animals, or whether they are ideas. Now look at example of the relative pronoun are who is a relative pronoun, which is also a relative pronoun, that, what, whose, and whom. These all are relative pronoun. Now through example you will learn easily that what relative pronoun refer or how relative pronoun refer. So look at, I am giving you an example of what example. Take a screenshot of this, so you may have saved it in your mobile phones. Now I am giving you a short example. Hope you guys take a screenshot. Now took a screenshot. So now I will be giving you an example of the relative pronoun. One example, we will discuss further example in this video as well, but in order to make it clear, I want to giving you a short example. Look at the example. Look at the example. The example is I met Ali. Ali had just returned. So look at viewers, in this example I have used Ali twice. So look at it is looking awkward. In order to make it correct, we may use relative pronoun. I may write it like this. I met Ali. I met Ali who had just returned. I met Ali who had just returned. So now look at who is basically a relative pronoun in this sentence, and it, look at viewer, and it refer or carries back to the noun or pronoun that is previously mentioned in the sentence. So the previous noun is basically Ali in this sentence. That's why we define relative pronoun as a relative pronoun is a pronoun that basically carries or that basically refer to the noun or pronoun that is mentioned in a sentence. So look at, I met Ali who had just written. So who is basically a relative pronoun, and it carries back to the noun or pronoun which is Ali in this sentence. That's why who is called a relative pronoun. Now viewers, we will discuss in this video as well that why relative pronouns are called conjunctive pronouns. Now we will discuss in a very grammatical and conceptual way that why native writers have written in their book that relative pronouns are also called conjunctive pronoun. We will discuss it. Look at this example. I met Ali. If I write this example as I met Ali. Ali had just returned. Ali had just returned. So look at, I met Ali. Ali had just returned. So it is looking awkward. In order to make it correct, we use a relative pronoun. I met Ali who had just returned. So now look at this example. Who does the two work here? Look, who is basically a relative pronoun and it does two work. What it does? It basically replaces a noun. Look at, who basically replaces a noun in this sentence. Who basically replaces a noun, and any word that basically replaces a noun, we call it pronoun. So who here work, the first work that is being done by who is who basically replaces a noun. And any word or any part of speech that replaces a noun is known as pronoun. Who does the first work in this sentence is who basically replaces a noun Ali. Instead of Ali, we place a relative pronoun who in this sentence. That's why who replaces a noun, and that word that replaces a noun is basically called a pronoun. So this is the first work that has been done by the relative pronoun who in this sentence. Now what does the word who did in this sentence? Look at this. I met Ali. Ali had just written. So there is no connection. These two statements are not connected. In order to make it connected, we use a relative pronoun who. Look at, I met Ali who had just returned. So now relative pronoun who basically in this sentence also connect this sentence. So that's why the word that basically connect two sentences or two statements. Look at these are two statements. I met Ali. Ali had just returned. So these are the two statements. So that word that basically connect two statements. So the second function that has been performed by the who is who basically connect two statements. And that word that basically connects statement are basically called in English grammar is conjunction. Conjunction. So what we have learned, look at this. From one example we have learned that in this sentence who does two work. First work is who replaces a noun, Ali. That's why a word that replaces a noun is basically called as pronoun. And what does who also does the work who connect the two statements. That's why the word in the English grammar that connect two statements is basically called conjunction. So pronoun plus conjunction. That's why relative pronouns are basically called as conjunctive pronoun. Look at again, who replaces a noun, that word that basically replaces a noun is called pronoun, and who also connect two statements, that's why it work is conjunction. So in this sentence who does two work. First it replaces a noun, and the second word it connect two statements. So pronoun plus conjunction, that's why relative pronoun is also called conjunctive pronoun. Same is the case with this second example. Look at, I have found the pin which I had lost. So look at, which here basically replaces the pin. Look at, I have found the pin. If I write like this, I have found the pin which, sorry, I have found the pin, I had lost the pin. So instead writing like that, I use a relative pronoun which, locate, I use a relative pronoun which, and it does same two work. It replaces a noun and also connect to statement. That's why relative pronoun are called conjunctive pronoun. Look at in the third example. Here is the book. If I read it out like this, here is the book, you lent me the book. So look at, in order to correct it, I may write like this, here is the book that you lent me. Now that is basically a relative pronoun and it does two work. First, it replaces a noun, and second work it does, it connect to statement. That's why relative pronoun are called conjunctive pronoun. Hope you guys understand that why a relative pronoun are called conjunctive pronoun. Now we will discussing forms of relative pronoun as well. Now we will discussing the forms of relative pronoun in a very grammatical and conceptual way. So we are starting from who. So look at who is basically a relative pronoun, and we have also discussed in our other videos that basically there are three cases. One is nominative case, which is basically subjective case. Other is genitive case, which is basically possessive case, and other is accusative case, which is basically objective case. So now look at nominative case. So the nominative case of who is same as who. Who is basically the nominative case of who is basically in the nominative case, and nominative case is basically a subjective case, and genitive case of who is basically whose. So now look at genitive case is basically possessive case, which basically show possession. So who possessive case is whose, and who possessive accusative case is basically whom, and accusative case is basically an objective case. So look at who itself is nominative case, which is basically a subjective case, and who possessive case or genitive case is who, and who accusative objective case is basically whom. So now look at the example. This is the boy who works hard. So now here who in this sentence, who is basically in the nominative case or in subjective case. Look at the second example. This is the boy whose exercise is done well. So look at whose here basically shows whose in this sentence is basically a relative pronoun. Whose is also a relative pronoun, but in this sentence it basically shows possession. That's why it is in genitive case or in possessive case. Look at the last example. This is the boy whom all praises. So whom is also a relative pronoun, but here it basically is in accusative case or in objective case. So now we have discussed the form of relative pronoun who itself is in nominative case, which is basically subjective case, and its genitive or possessive case is who, and its accusative or objective case is whom. Now we'll discussing the forms of other relative pronoun, that, which as well. Now we will discussing the forms of relative pronoun which. We'll discussing the forms of relative pronoun which. So now look at which has basically the same nominative case and accusative case. So look at its accusative case and its nominative case are same. Nominative and its accusative cases. Accusative case are same, and the cases are which. Look at this. This is basically which, also in nominative case, and which is also in accusative case, which is basically an objective case. Now look at, I have written about that the genitive case is basically of which, but remember that was in classical English. Now in modern English grammar it has no genitive case. I'm again repeating that genitive case of which is basically of which, but it was in classical English grammar. Now in the modern English grammar, which have no genitive case. In modern English, which have no genitive case, but we'll discuss it in some of the older English, in classical English grammar, that it genitive case of which. Now through example we'll learn. Look at, this is the house which belonged to my uncle. So now which basically in the nominative case. Now the house which my uncle built. Now which here is in basically in the built, cost him Rs 3 lakh. 50,000. So now which in this example, now as mentioned earlier, that which have the same nominative case and its accusative case are same, and they are which. So which and which, it is in nominative case, and here it is in accusative case, which is basically an objective case. Now look at the last example. As I mentioned earlier, the genitive case in the older English of which was of which, but now in the modern English there is which have no genitive or no possessive case. So look at this example. A triangle of which three sides are equal is called equilateral triangle. A triangle of which, so now of which basically show here position, but now the native writer have written in their book, instead of which we may write whose, and whose basically shows position. Whose basically shows position. So now in the older English, of which was the genitive or the possessive case of which. Look at the example. A triangle of which three sides are equal is called equilateral triangle. Now the modern English writer have written in their book that of which is looking awkward, so they replace of which with whose. So now the sentence will like this: a triangle whose three sides are equal is called equilateral triangle. Again, a triangle whose three sides are equal is called equilateral triangle. Hope you guys understand about the concept of genitive case of which, that in older English genitive case of which, but nowadays with which have no genitive case, we just use whose in order to show position, in order to show ownership. So now we have discussed the relative pronoun of which. Now we'll discussing the relative pronoun date and what, which are also relative pronoun as well. Now we will discussing the forms of the relative pronoun, which are date and what, which are date and what. Date and what are also relative pronouns, so we will discuss it cases as well. So now the nominative and accusative case of date is same. Its nominative and its accusative cases are same. Nominative case is basically a subjective case, and accusative case is basically a objective case. So the relative pronoun date has the same nominative case, which is date, and accusative case is also the same, which is date. Now remember that there is no genitive case of date. So there is no possessive case of date, which means there is no genitive case of, that's why I have written the nil. So there is no genitive case of date. Its nominative and accusative cases are same, which are date, and it has no genitive case and it has no possessive case. So look at example. Take anything that you like. Take anything that you like. I remember the day that he came. I remember the day that he came. Look at the last one. What? What is also a relative pronoun, and it is also the same cases of the nominative and genitive cases are same. Its nominative case is basically an subjective case, and its accusative case, which is basically an objective case. So they nominative case and accusative case are same of what, which are what and what. And it also like of that, it have what also have no genitive case, no possessive case. That's why I have written here nil. Look at the example. Now what, remember that what basically means the things which, what basically means the thing which, what basically means the things, which. So look at, I may apply it, I did. What has happened is not clear. The things which has happened is not clear. The things, look at, I may write here it down, the things. So they are basically the meaning of what, the things which. That instead of what, we can also write the things which has happened is not clear. So look at the meaning of what is basically the things which, and its nominative and accusative cases are same, which are what. Now look at last example. I say what I mean. So look at viewers, in part 6 we have discussed about relative pronoun. I also give you reason that why relative pronoun is called conjunctive pronoun, and at the last we discussed the forms of relative pronoun in a very grammatical and conceptual way. Stay connected with Learn with MW and also engage with us. Now in upcoming videos in part 7 we will discussing the usage of relative pronoun in a very grammatical and a very conceptual way. So viewers, if you like this video, share this video with your friends, like and subscribe the channel as well, and don't forget to comment. Thank you very much.